Let's go to let's go to Kansas. Literally, let's go to Bethany out in Kansas. What's up, Bethany?
Hi, Dr. John. How are you doing?
Partying, dude. How are you?
I'm good. Just chilling out in the cold weather here in Kansas.
How cold is it today?
Well, it says 40, but it's been cloudy and just gloomy and rainy for several days now. So
That just sounds gross.
yeah,
It's been that way here in Nashville, and the sun came out today. So hang in there. It's coming. It's coming.
open.
So what's up? How can I help?
So my question for you today is really just so I'm only in my second long-term relationship, and I just. I gain a lot of advice from everybody around me, but now I'm getting...
It's always terrible, Bethany. You know that.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping most of it's good, but...
It is. I guarantee you it's not. It's not. It's the worst. How old are you?
I am 36.
Okay. You just said, the way you said, this is my second long-term relationship, you said it as though something's wrong with you. Do you think that?
I've questioned that through the years.
Why?
But, because I'm, in my mid-30s, and I just had my first long-term relationship when I was 34, so I was just kind of...
What happened with that one?
I know. Huh?
What happened with that one?
He wasn't ready to be an adult yet.
How old was he?
33.
Jeez.
So... He was looking, I just, by the end of it, I was just feeling more like his mom than anything.
Good for you. Gross. Don't kiss your son. Yuck. Good.
Yeah, it was not great.
All right, a quick aside. Men, grow up! Okay, now we're back, Bethany. Jeez. 33. Unbelievable.
Great.
Okay,
yeah,
so have you met somebody new?
Yes, and
Ew, gross.
He's wonderful.
Oh, gross! Okay. Why?
Yeah.
What makes him wonderful?
He's a grown-up. No, he has a really good heart for people. We align on a lot of things that are very core values for me and for him. And we've done a lot of talking, the serious talks, and we've been together for 6 months. And we're starting to talk, not really even starting. We've, talked about future and what all that looks like. So my question really is how do you know really when you're ready to ride or die, as you say, with somebody, and best practices to prepare for marriage?
Ooh, that's a good question. The very un-Hollywood truthful answer is when I decide from this day forward, I'm going to wake up every day and choose to love this person. I wish there was this, when they cross this magic threshold, and people will tell you all kind of stupid things that they've got on posters in their church office or stitched into some pillow at the grandma's house, whatever. Love is a decision. It's a choice that I make every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And my wife makes it sometimes minute by minute, right? So it's really when you say, I'm parking the bike here for the ride or die analogy. I'm parking the bike here. And this is where I'm going to be. And so that leads me to the next. There's a couple of questions that I always like, and they're a little untraditional. They wrap up some of the stuff that you would hear in normal, is he the one, or is all that kind of stuff. The first question I always want to know from a couple is, where do y'all go in times of disconnection or distress? Here's why.
From each other?
From life. Are you somebody who, when there's an awkward conversation at work, you disappear? Do you get loud and start swinging? Do you freeze and just freeze up? Does that happen in a romantic relationship? Does it happen with kids? Does it happen with the person at the grocery store? Here's why. We often try to solve the fighting or the hiding or the yelling, and we don't realize that it's the exact same core issue. It's just your body does one thing and my body does another. And so what you often get in a relationship, a romantic relationship, is there's an issue. The issue is you came home and said, hey, we were going to talk about the budget, and there's a $400 expense at some ammo store. Not that that's ever happened in my life. And instantly, you have a defensive mechanism that just kicks in. Maybe it's fighting. Maybe it's getting really loud and pissed off. Maybe it's hiding. It is, I'm just not going to bring this up. I'm not going to say anything, and I'm going to let the slow ash of resentment burn. He, on the other hand, when you bring it up, gets real defensive. This is my money. I work hard at it. And he's going to, I want to know where each of us go during times of disconnection and distress. And here's the key here is when I am somebody who I kind of toggle, which is weird. It's rare. Sometimes my chest comes up and I start to fight, and sometimes I hide. My wife, she pulls away. That's just the way it goes. Now I know when she starts to pull away, her body's telling her she's not safe. It's not because she's got some character issue or some flaw. It's that her body's trying to protect her. And I can then go to the mirror and say, what am I bringing to this that makes the house feel unsafe? See what I'm saying? Usually it's I'm being reckless with spending, or I walk in with bags of gummy candy and she just knows, oh no, he's about to fall off the what. All right. So that's question number one. Question number two is, how do you asking each other, how do you like to hear things that you probably don't want to know? And this ranges from, hey, you have a booger in your nose? Do you want me to make a joke about it? Do you want me to say it very discreetly? Do you want to just not know? To, here's how many people I've slept with. To, here's how many people I don't like it. Like when we're having sex, I don't like it when you do this versus when you do that. Like, how do you want to hear things that are going to be hard to hear? The way you talked to me last night when you were mad makes me want to leave this house. How do you want to hear those things? And let's try to do our best to, can I honor that? If somebody says, I don't ever want you to tell me, I don't ever want to know, you might say, I'm going to tell you. So this might not be a great relationship. Or like my instinct is to make jokes about things. That's just how I handle hard situations. That's really helpful when I'm going into a crisis situation and somebody's passed away and there's really hard things to see. And then we can make a really dark black humor joke and all of us can kind of like giggle through it, right? I learned early on, my wife didn't like me going, oh, you know what I would love to do right now? Kiss you, except you got a booger on your face. Like she didn't, that hurt her feelings. That wasn't cool. What she would like me to say is to whisper into her, hey, you got a booger right there. Just be really matter of fact and direct, facts to your friends, just say it, and then we move on. I had to learn that new language, right? But when she said, can you do it like this? I was like, absolutely, I can do that. That wasn't a big deal to me, okay? So how do you tell each other things you probably don't want to hear? That's number two. Number three, the big ones, the role of religion, money, and sex in our relationship. How do you deal with those personally? How are we going to do those things here? And here's the big one. How do each of you respond when those things change? Not if, but when. My relationship with faith is very, very different today than it was when I started dating my wife. Drastically different. There's been seasons of me being a devout atheist, like just almost like proselytizing. And there's been seasons when I'm so in tune with my faith and belief that it's hard. There's not a lot of space for anybody else. And my wife has been through ups and downs in her particular journeys. We all chose at the beginning to hold those things really loosely. It's not my job to make sure she believes everything I believe, but that works for us. Some people couldn't do that, right? And so what's the role of religion? What's the role of money? For me, money is very, very scary. For my wife, it's this amazing opportunity. And so we respond to it differently. We spend differently. We save differently. So what's the role it plays? Same with sex. So you see what I'm saying? What's the role of religion, money, and sex? And then here's the last one. What's the role of kids and extended family? This guy that's just so wonderful. Gross, Bethany. Has he been married before?
Yeah, that was kind of like a side question too that I had. But because he has a 23-year-old daughter, and she, like, how, like, I know I don't really have a say in their relationship, but as we do come to this, like, situation, she does depend on him financially
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit. She's kind of got her and her grandpa like sort of wrapped around her finger in that. And I'm looking at the future of like, if we expand the family, like how do we have that conversation? How do I have that conversation? Or I don't know.
That conversation sounds less about he can't afford it, or less about there's things we want to do together for our dreams, but he's still paying for an adult. And it sounds more like, I know that grubby little girl. I've seen her before, and she's just taking this man's money. It sounds much more personal than financial.
Yeah.
Bethany, you're my favorite call I've had in a while. So that's going to be a you issue, not him. Where it's going to be a him issue is if you find yourself quietly low simmer, disrespecting him because he's still paying for her.
Right.
If you have a hard time with the way that if you think you're going to gently steer him away from his daughter, you're not going to. You're gonna cause havoc.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that.
I know you don't. I know you don't. But you also want her to grow up. I've seen girls like her. Like you want that too.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a place where probably bite your tongue on that one. Where it will come up is when you start to say, okay, when we have this conversation about the role of religion, the role of money, the role of sex, that's really a role of what kind of life do we want to live? And in 20 years, when you're 56 and you're 58, what house do you want to have? What town do you want to live in? Where do you want to be? And there's no guarantee we're ever going to get there, but at least let's at least aim at something and begin formulating a plan. Let's reverse engineer a plan to get there. And that's when it's like, hey, you still send $1,000 a month to your 23-year-old kid? That's a lot. Tell me about that. And it's probably going to be he feels guilty over some divorce, and he still feels like he needs to fund this thing because he's paying this out of guilt. And that happens all the time. And he's going to have to come to the choice that he doesn't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of guilt in it.
Of course. There almost always is. Almost always is.
Yeah.
And
but he's a good dad. Like he raised her, so
of course.
he's a good
dad. There's also have you taken her out for coffee just to get to know her?
Not one-on-one, not yet. It's still been kind of a get to know her with him around, and so she hasn't.
Is your dad still around?
To that point. Huh?
Is your dad still around?
Yeah.
Are you fully around your dad and your boyfriend?
No.
No, you are not. No, you are not. My father-in-law's in town, and I wore a long sleeve shirt just to cover up my tattoos, and it's my house. In my house. Just out of respect. Just trying to be respectful. And so I tell you that to tell you, you're not getting to know her with her dad around.
Right.
You're getting to see how she curates her image when old man's around, but you don't know her. I would lean in there because you're going to find a lot about her. You're going to find some stories about him that you don't know. You're going to find out a lot about how she's been raised, how she's operated, and for both really good and you're going to have some like, whoa, I didn't know all that. And that's part of the picture that you are choosing to opt into if you're with this guy. And I think that's amazing. It's just you just want to make sure the car looks great. I just want to drive it first.
Yeah.
And what role does your family play?
Well, they're 3 hours away, so they're just they're advisors a lot of the time.
But I'm talking about Christmas, Thanksgiving, holidays, birthdays, funerals.
Yeah. Those are important to us, and that's the difference in my family versus his. Is like it's not really a thing with his family because he has such a small family. But for my family, like it's a big thing.
Let's have all those conversations up. What's the role of kids in extended family?
Yeah, that is important.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm proud of you for asking these fun, hard questions.
Well, thank you for allowing me to ask these fun, hard questions.
It's your life. You can do whatever you want. Here's the one thing I would challenge you and him on. I would create a spirit of adventure when you're asking these questions, not a spirit of Law and Order SVU inquiry in court. How do you believe, how do you function with religion? What is your thoughts on sex? That's so, like, geez, I now got to fight you. Now my defense mechanisms are coming up. But if we're going on an adventure together, hey, we're thinking about building a life. What's the role faith and religion plays in your world? Is this scientific method something you worship, or is it a cool way to solve science problems? Tell me about what you believe. Tell me about what you think. What's the role of money plays in your life? Did you have a lot growing up? Did you have none growing up? Like, let's have a spirit of adventure about these questions. And by the way, every one of these questions will change. Ta-da! That's the big secret nobody tells you about. They'll all change. And so the second question here is probably one of the most important ones. How do I tell you things that you probably don't want to hear? You don't want to know that I used to love it when you did this thing in bed, and then 4 months went by and I hate it. And now you think it's the greatest move. It's your best move. That makes me want to not be around you at all. How do you want me to tell you that? Because you're going to feel embarrassed that for 4 months you've been coming in and doing this thing. How do we have those conversations? Because it's going to shift and it's going to shift and it's going to move. And that is the grand adventure of being married to somebody. And it's not something to be scared over to run away from. It's something to embrace fully and be like, oh, awesome. I get to have a never-ending adventure with somebody. It's fantastic. What a rad way to live. It's awesome. Hey, hang on the line, Bethany. I'm going to send you the questions for humans for dating couples and for romantic couples. Gross. And those are going to be on me. I want y'all to go through them. You'll have a blast.